Hello everyone and welcome back to Tarot and Torch. Today I thought it would be fun to show you what I'm working with in the month of July. I know we're kind of halfway through, but it's been busy. But I thought it would be fun to also do a pairing of books and film, as this has been a summer of Summerween celebrations for me and my family, and so I thought that it would be neat to pair some horror books and films along with the kind of spooky decks that I've been working with, so I can show you what July is going to look like in terms of the decks that I'm using, and just having those fun pairings to go along with that. So I hope you'll enjoy this kind of fun and spooky foray. I purchased a pumpkin bread candle from Michael's. It's always that celebratory moment every year when Michael's kind of, starts getting in their fall line and their Halloween. So we go out and I usually will get something like this to kind of commemorate. So I'm just going to light that. And I hope all of you have been having a wonderful month. I meant to get this video out sooner, but here we are. And I'll still have an end of the month video as well. Okay, so this is a nice big candle, by the way, and it smells heavenly. Okay, so the first decks that I want to talk about kind of come in a pair. The Horror Tarot and the Horror Oracle. And I love using these in the summer. They're very bright in their coloring, but they of course have the traditional horror kind of movies and tropes, and they look like old movie posters, each one of them, and they have such interesting, cheeky, yet colorful imagery, but it's also very, very potent. So you can see, like, this one here. And the little captions and images where it says featuring indecision, dilemma, and potential risk. So it has a very cheeky sense of humor to it, and while also still carrying that kind of scary, spooky quality that horror brings. But there's many horror movies that have such a sense of humor when you can look past, the scares, when you really think about what's going on, like zombies being symbols for consumerism, for example, overconsumption. And then the Horror Oracle, it's very different, but yet, has a lot of similarities, and they go together so very well, not only with the colors, but again, the meanings and kind of what you can divine from them, and just carrying with it that, you know, not everything has to be so serious. And, you know, horror may be a strange place to find that humor, but in today's world, I mean, I think not. The Babadook. So this pairing, I love to use in summertime. It connects me to the same kind of shadow work elements that we find in the fall, but with a sense of lightness and humor that the summer can sometimes bring. Now, the book that I pair these with is the Final Girl support group, and I'm not finished reading this. You'll find a lot of these books, because these are things that I am working with now actively, you know, are not completely read. But this book is it has that sense of humor to it. It has that sense of humor as each of the characters in the book are final girls, which are you know, characters that survived the horror movie. So the ones that had enough brains and, you know, was able to escape using their wits. And the whole point is that together the final girls don't really make a good team. They are very independent of one another, and they get on each other's nerves, and you know, they react very differently to dangerous situations, and they blame each other. So there's this element of, you know, these are the smartest and strongest supposedly of the horror characters, yet they cannot get along. They're fighting with one another. They're you know, trying to survive this new threat, and they all have their kind of traumas that they're also trying to work through from their last incidents. Their last you know, battle for survival has left quite a mark on them. So this is a great book. It's very funny, which matches the themes of the decks very well, since like I said, both the Oracle and the deck, the tarot deck, have a lot of humor in them if you read the cards and you look at them and really think about it. And it's very tongue-in-cheek kind of humor. So it's really, really just a fun time to use this combination, and this book goes with it just really well. And for the film that could go along with this, I would say things like Scream could go really well. I Know What You Did Last Summer. You know, things that are very slasher-esque but also have a sense of humor. Actually, I think the best pairing for this, and we just watched this recently, is Scary Movie, the original. That is actually perfect as a pairing for these decks along with the book. So that's my recommendation for Summerween #1. For my second recommendation, I have just an Oracle deck, because I don't have a deck that really matches this aesthetic yet. But this is the Southern Gothic Oracle, and I love a good Southern Gothic horror movie or story. And, you know, I do not live, you know, in the South, but there was all this lore growing up of kind of what would happen in the South, and, you know, the stories from like Appalachia and places. So there's all of these kind of tales that we hear, and folklore. So I love this deck because this deck also came with the Haunts, I believe it was called, Oracle, and that was another set, but I mixed the two together, so I have that in here. But I love the folklore and the mysterious kind of energy of the South and kind of what that brings to a book, a movie. And this deck is really beautiful, by the way. I love this deck. And, you know, it's, of course, you can use it for any kind of reading. And it's very accurate and really nice to use in the summer just because, again, the colors, the vibrancy, there's a lot of life in this deck. But there's also those haunts, you know, and hopefully we'll come across one. Nest of wasps. But there's a lot of this, when it comes to Southern stories, there's this element of kind of religious horror, which I enjoy quite a bit. The devil, you know, prominently features, like, you know, in the famous song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. But there's also a lot of stories. There's one, Abandoned Plantation. And see, and the tales and the haunts, you know, also reveal, like it says, ugly truths about kind of history and where things were at the time, you know, politically, and just as a historical element, it plays into the stories themselves and what that means. And so there's this kind of this element of, you know, you reap what you sow, and which is very interesting. So the film that I will pair with this, there's two. One is called House on the Bayou, and you know, Rob and I just watched this recently, and it was so good, you guys. I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved that movie. Again, for the kind of moral and philosophical, I should say, implications of your actions and what they reveal about you. So I thought it was such a brilliant film, very entertaining, but also I really loved just the ending and everything about it. So that's one, and it has, you know, just a lot of that kind of feel to it of the South, and the imagery takes place inside of a Southern Gothic home, and so there's a lot of beautiful things to see in terms of the environment. But I love the movie for what it was. And the other pairing that I have, I was trying to find another haunt card. Well, there's one, axe, I guess. I think that was one. Let me see. Instrument. Okay, the Hellhound. And see, it says cruelty or fear tactics. So it's all about kind of that moral implication of how good or bad you are as a soul kind of dictates what happens to you. So interesting kind of way to see things. So the other movie, or a show, I guess I should say, that could go, that's kind of a Southern spin on horror, is True Blood. Now, I know this is a completely guilty pleasure, absolutely 100%. But if you ever watched True Blood, this is very much taking place in the South, and the characters are, you know, they have accents, and there's a swamp, and just, you know, Like, there's all of this imagery and sounds and sights of the South. There's even an episode where they talk about casserole and how you don't give people that you care about casserole. This show was very much a guilty pleasure for me, but also the part where she loses her gram, that hit me pretty hard because, you know, eventually I used to watch this with my gram, and then when I lost her, it was something that I went to kind of like a comfort show. But anyway, this show is really very much a comfort watch if you grew up in that time. And if you've never seen it, I mean, it's a guilty pleasure. What more can I say? It's vampires, but it's more about the relationships of the characters. So basically like a vampire soap opera that takes place in the South, but worth it in my opinion. I enjoy it. The next deck I want to work with for July is the Haunted House Tarot, which I have shown you before. I love this deck. I don't know if it's in print still or not. I heard that it was out of print, but I don't know if that's still true. But this deck is very, very cool. It's each card depicts a different room or situation that is taking place with the main character, and she is going through and meeting, you know, different people, different characters and scenarios, and she's you know, the house, I think she was given ownership of the house, and she discovers all these dangerous things happening, you know, with all the monsters and all of that, but she has to find her way kind of out. And it's really good for any kind of readings, especially, you know, psychic readings or readings where you really need to open your kind of perceptions of what is the meanings of the cards. This is a very expansive deck in my opinion for that, because it doesn't always follow the Rider-Waite completely. There's a lot of differences, and it really opens up your psychic capacity in my humble opinion. But I love the art. I love that there's no borders as well, and I just think it's really well done. And you know, it is horror because it takes you through these different kind of somewhat scary situations. And she does feel very much kind of like a final girl going through these different places and having these challenges that she's facing. But it doesn't feel scary in, you know, when you're using it. So there is still that feeling of knowing that you are able to have some control or ownership over your choices. You know, it's not like you feel powerless or anything like that. Sometimes in horror that can be the case, where you feel that you can't really do very much, but this is more like a final girl type of feeling. So also could go with that other book. But I pair this deck with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the show. Now, there is a Buffy deck. However, I don't have that, and I might not get it. I don't really know how I feel about it. We'll see. But I like this deck with Buffy because it does have that feeling of kind of, you know, a normal person put in these very strange circumstances, but able to kind of fight their way through and discover that they're stronger than they think, which, you know, is kind of like the first season where Buffy is kind of figuring out who she is and why things are happening to her this way. Buffy, if you don't know, is a TV show that came out in 1997, and it was very popular. She is essentially a vampire hunter, but she's a teenage girl trying to have like a normal existence. But again, it's all about the characters and what they're going through and their bonding and kind of, you know, where they end up. And you know, if you grew up during that time like I did, it was such a formative show. I mean, I think that these shows really and movies really shaped a lot of the 90s kids' existence. But in any case, this is a great show and deck to use like when you're feeling, you know, a little lost or just feeling that circumstances are a bit unfair or out of your control. You can watch this show or use this deck, and it kind of helps to put you back into that driver's seat again and let you know that, hey, you know, that this situation isn't as difficult as it may appear initially. You know, you have that ability to overcome, and it's just nice to see a character kind of building that strength and resilience up over time. The next deck that I have to show you is the Witch's Kitchen Oracle deck. This is a really cozy kind of herbalism, or, you know, herbal deck. And this may feel a bit more like a Halloween choice, but I feel that it's suitable for Summerween, especially with the green here. I love this deck. It's especially because it is working with plants, and plants are mostly, you know, you harvest them in the summer, but you can do green witchcraft all year, especially if you're just buying, you know, the dried herbs. But if you grow them, you can still put them in jars and use them another time. But it does take you through the herbs, how to use them, and there's this cozy little library and kitchen counter setting in the background for all the cards, which I appreciate, and it makes it feel so cozy, especially with the kitty cat here. But you can see it's just like stepping into this really lovely, you know, little witchy cottage. And so it has that calming kind of setting, and as if you're, you know, stepping into a witch's home, and she's explaining these herbs to you and maybe giving you a little bit of tea for whatever's ailing you. And it really does, you know, get you out of that overthinking mode and lets you kind of just feel nourished and nurtured a little bit. And like someone's taking care of you is really the feeling that I'm getting. It's very nurturing, very healing, and just, I love looking at the little background. Even though it's mostly the same in all of these, there's some little differences on the table that you can see in them and around the border. But this is a very sweet, calming deck. It also teaches you how to use the herbs, gives you little incantations and little recipes. So it's a great deck. I believe it's still in print, and it was, you know, decently priced when I had purchased it, but that was a long time ago. And I believe I just got it on Amazon. So this deck, because it's so cozy and witchy and lovely, I paired it with Practical Magic. And, you know, this movie, of course, is making a resurgence now, but this is a cult classic, and, you know, if you know, you know. It's just a beautiful movie, really, really a touching movie, and again, it's about kind of finding hope when all else is kind of going against you, and, you know, that you feel that there's no way to kind of have what it is that you have your heart set on. This movie is kind of an exploration of that, and, you know, finding the magic in the moment of your life. And in that way, it is a very kind of practical magic itself. But it's about her relationship with her sister, her family, and finding love again when she didn't expect to. So if you have not seen it, which I'm sure a lot of you have, but if you haven't heard of this movie or watched it, definitely I would give it a go. It's really good. And I'm so excited about the new practical magic movie that is coming out. Because as you can see, you know, I own it. I've owned it for a long time. I love it so much. I've watched it countless times. And so for fans, this was like a miracle, like seeing the original cast coming back in the second film after so much time. So yeah, I love this deck with this movie. There's tons of other decks you could probably use. There used to be an actual practical magic deck, and I wanted that, but it was a bit pricey, and I just never ended up getting it. But there's lots of other cozy magical decks that would work really well with this movie as well. So yeah, that's basically all the choices that I had. I'm also going to use the Haunted Cottage Oracle. I don't really have any pairings for that, but any kind of cabin in the woods type of movie could work with that, or book. And for the practical magic, there is a book called Practical Magic, which is basically a perfect read. Any of the books written by that author is a perfect read as a pairing. But there's a lot of cozy witch books out there as well. There was one, I think it was called like Bread and Magic or something like that. And I will try to link or post kind of a picture of it or something. But that was a really great little cozy witch reading as well. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this kind of creative foray into the things that I'll be working with this month. And please let me know if you have seen any of these movies or read the books, or, you know, if you have these decks and what you think of them and what you'll be working with. And I will talk with all of you very, very soon.